All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Go with the Flow. I'm your host, Folarin Okulaja, here with a special guest. But before I get to my guest, make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you get podcasts
Run
or
it up.
content, run it up.
Run it up.
Exactly.
Run it up. Love
Exactly.
that.
Like and subscribe. But my guest today is Scooter Taylor. Welcome to the show, Scooter.
What's going on? Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you
Seriously.
for coming on. And this episode came about because of Remy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Remy.
Shout out Remy.
The beauty in connecting people. So honestly, that's even where I want to start. Is one of my favorite things about New York City in general is the quality of people that you meet in the most random of ways. I went to a comedy show last night. Shout out Underground Overground Comedy. Shout out David Levine and Ethan Mansour, where they host these comedy shows in random locations all over the city.
Okay.
Went to one a couple months back, ended up chopping it up with David after the fact, and now he's someone I consider a friend, and we've built that connection just through the city.
For sure.
And so now you're someone who I'm looking forward to seeing where this relationship goes.
No, I mean, it's good. I think you got to leave room for like serendipity, right? And I think, New York in itself has like a just surface area for luck, right? You can go to a coffee shop, you can go to a bar, you could be at a podcast studio and someone's like, you should meet the next person.
Exactly.
And there's that serendipity that, you can get in a lot of places, but New York, I mean, like I said, the surface area for just that happening is phenomenal.
Exactly.
So
Scooter Taylor, give the people your background. Who are you? Where are you from? Let's get into it.
Yeah, man. I always start with Memphis, man. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. If you've ever been to Memphis, it's a special place. It's got its challenges, but it's a very special place. The people are special. So yeah, from Memphis, fairly normal upbringing. Mom, dad, older sister. It was kind of the core four of us. I like to think that, my mom and dad, for the most part, like never told me I couldn't do anything. Like I didn't get really whoopings as a kid, if that comes off clear in our interactions. But I was just given the freedom to try different things. And, very early on, tried a lot of things on the computer. And, that kind of steamrolled to a lot. But I'm new to New York as well. I've lived in Atlanta, San Francisco, LA, but new to New York this is month 5 right now, I think, as of today. So that's beautiful.
Out of all those places that you've lived so far, which has been your favorite, and why?
This might hurt some people. I mean, New York is the favorite for sure, right? Like I really can see myself being here for 15, 20 years, honestly. Atlanta, though, is just so special. And people like to hate on Atlanta, but Atlanta is very...
People hate on Atlanta?
People do. I think, but I think those folks who hate on Atlanta have never really been to Atlanta, right? They actually have been to Georgia, and they've been to like surrounding areas of Atlanta, but they haven't actually just spent time in the city. I think if you're especially like a young professional Black person, like it's a special city. I think Atlanta is one of the most culturally important cities in the world right now. There's some beautiful people there doing beautiful things. So yeah, it's a sleeper because it's in the South too, right? So obviously you got your New York, your LA, your coastal cities. But when you start going down south, Atlanta is a gem.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Atlanta twice last year over the summer, and the food down there is amazing. You get the Southern hospitality.
The lamb chops or what?
We went to this one breakfast spot. It was it's called the Breakfast
Club. Yeah,
Breakfast Club.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. The Breakfast Club. Phenomenal.
I'll give you that.
You wait in line for way too long, but once you
that.
actually sit down, the food is amazing. So I went there for a wedding and then for the Black and Fest podcast festival.
Okay.
Took a nice little solo trip down there just to take in the space because I just enjoy being around creatives, people doing similar things to what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, Atlanta's special, man.
How would you describe your time growing up in Memphis? How has it kind of shaped who you are now that because you've lived in Atlanta, SF, LA, now New York. How does that Memphis upbringing still kind of stick with you?
Man, it's the Southern hospitality, right? That respect. I was a 90s kid, 93, so kind of the last of that era that was, raised by the community and you respect your elders and you're outside all day until the street lights come on. So I think there's definitely this just like Southern hospitality, respect, patience, grace that I really credit Memphis with. And then, I think just like there's a rich culture, right? Obviously, 3 6 Mafia, the Young Dolph, the all the different rap music and how important that is to the city. The Grizzlies
I was about to ask about the
had the
Grizzlies.
grit and grind era. And so, I statistically, right? Like, should I have made it out of Memphis? I don't know, right? Statistically, it's not a city where most people make it out and do some of the things that we're doing. And I have friends who are doing just even more amazing things, right? And so there's a resilience, I think, that's embedded into the city, right? Like, it's just like luck of the draw. Boom, you're born in Memphis. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's an uphill battle versus like, you're maybe born in another city that has opportunity for you and your people, like we really gotta. So like, mom and dad, like they worked, mom specifically, right, worked a lot to make sure that we had, access to the good education and X, Y, and Z. Put me into programs. I was a Taekwondo guy. That was my thing. So Taekwondo is a big early influence. I started when I was 9 and then ended up actually being like a Taekwondo instructor.
Oh, wow.
Then,
what belt did you get up to?
I got up to 3rd degree black belt. Yeah.
Wow. So you can fight.
You
said
I'll
my
leave it at
words.
that.
He said, don't mess with them. Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. No, you can't tell people that because then people will be trying to like put you in situations.
Try to test you.
Yeah, and it's like I just keep it really close to the chest oftentimes. But no, Taekwondo was a big, that was a big activity. I was a gym rat, so I would go all day. Like my class wouldn't be till 7 o'clock, but I'd ask my mom to drop me off at 5. Like I'd just be there all day. And from there, I fell in love with it. Was able to move up through the ranks. Started helping teaching the class, like just assisting, and then that turned into like getting up in front of the class, right, and like warming them up, and then that led to like, okay, do the first 30 minutes of the class, and then I got the confidence to like teach an entire class. So that was my job from 14 to like 18, 19. Like that was really I didn't work in like a Chick-fil-A or anything. Like that was my job. And then through that is how I started doing like YouTube stuff as well.
Perfect. Great segue, because I was gonna lead into that. You mentioned earlier on that your parents, they kind of let you be creative and do all these different things.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had a YouTube channel back in the day. Could you high level tell the people how you got into it and what the type of content is that you produced?
Yeah, man, YouTube was a wild time. So basically, I'm teaching Taekwondo, and the owner of the Taekwondo school, his son, was there, and I tripped over his MacBook charger. And if you remember, the MacBook chargers used to be magnetic, so it just kind of popped out. And I was like, "What's this?" And I look at the computer, and he's like on iMovie, and he's making a video, and he's doing like the Star Wars title effect, and I was just like, how are you doing this? Like, I like Star Wars. Like, how are you? And he's like, it's a MacBook. This is iMovie. So I saved up all my money and bought a MacBook like maybe 3 weeks later. So me and him really hit it off, just like learning about the computers. And we started making videos that were trying to be comedy, trying to be funny videos, but they weren't funny at all. And, we'd work so hard on these videos, put them up online, and the next morning they'd have like 8 views, 10 views. But that was really just us like refreshing the screen like every time. And then one day we did a video on tech. We did a video just like describing some of the apps that we had been downloading and like plugins that we were finding. And we woke up the next morning and that had like 120 views. And we were like, okay, we might be on to something.
Yeah.
So we just kept doing Mac tips. So we called it Macintosh tips. We had 20,000 subscribers. I mean, I'm like, this is like 2008, 2009. So I'm like 15, 16, and fell in love with it. I mean, like literally, to your point, like mom was cool with me just on the back computer all day. Like I wasn't going to like football games or basketball games like in high school trying to holler at chicks. Like I was making YouTube videos, man. That's what I was doing.
Which honestly, and so we'll get into kind of the broader content creation aspect of things.
Yeah.
And even, which is something that I'm even trying to do, is kind of fine tune what it is that the people want to listen to and what they want to hear. And that'll kind of guide the content that you create, which it sounds like it happened for you. When you were initially starting, was there any sort of, because this is even something that I not really struggled with, but I thought about when I was working on this podcast, is when you're posting content on YouTube, you are putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
You are leaving yourself up for whether it's criticism, love, hate, whatever. Was that ever a hesitation for you in doing the initial content producing that you were doing?
I think funny enough, I've actually dealt with that more now as I've started to like put videos back online.
Mhm.
But back then, I think some of it was like the young and innocent and you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
But also like the internet was still very new to a lot of people, 2008, 2009, right? Like the iPhone is just dropping, you're just getting an iPhone with video recording capabilities. So it wasn't just like, there were haters online, but it wasn't as a magnitude of now, right?
Yeah.
Like you could put something up now and like you get hate in like 30 seconds,
Yeah.
right? Back then you get a couple people who are like, this is stupid, or, you get your racist YouTuber every once in a while, but you kind of just shake that off. I think for me, and this is also interesting to see how content has evolved. Like back then, I wanted to be like super perfect, right? I wanted to talk perfectly. Quality had to be good. The jump cuts, like everything had to be good because we were using like professional cameras. We were trying to really, edit and make a polished video. Now it's like, you're in the car, barbecue sauce is on your lip. You can just put a selfie up and like that shit goes viral. You know what I'm saying? And like back then, that would have never flew, right? Because think about it. YouTube was just coming out with like HD capabilities, right?
Yeah, but when was YouTube? Let me even. I don't even know when YouTube. Because you had to. If 2008, that was like.
Yeah, YouTube comes out in like 05.
Yeah, that's early YouTube.
So this is like early. This is like before they even started like monetizing the channel. Like we started monetizing in like 2009. Valentine's Day 2009 actually. Damn, this might be the anniversary of
there you go.
Yeah. I remember my boy. Shout out my boy Michael Glenn, man. This is a funny moment. He set us up on like a double date to go watch this movie, My Bloody Valentine. It's rated R. And so we can't even buy tickets. We had to actually like ask someone to like buy the tickets, and then they fumbled the bag. So we ended up actually watching Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Nice.
But I was actually on one. Everyone else was like kind of upset about it, but I was on one because literally 2 hours before that, I got the email from YouTube saying you can monetize your channel. And so I was like, I make money on my YouTube channel. And they were like, okay, like what are you talking about? So yeah, that was just to give you a context of like what I was like
and what was the threshold back then to even get it to be monetizable, if you remember?
I think it was like 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers, but it was always very just like loose. You didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like
as defined.
Like right now, I think it's like hour watch time and stuff like that. Like it wasn't like that. It was just like, do you have the subscribers? You have the views? Like you got to apply. They hit you back. So yeah, we got in, and it was pretty cool.
And was it something that everyone around you knew you were doing, or was it just kind of your own secret little thing where you just have this, you have your 20K subscribers online, and then you show up to class and no one kind of knows what it is that you're doing outside of school?
No, man, I tried to let people know. I wore a YouTube hoodie. I was trying to find a photo so you could put up there. I had a YouTube hoodie and I wore it. But again, people just didn't understand. Like they were like, "Why are you repping YouTube so hard?" And I'm like, I have a channel and like I make money from it, and they were just like, only Soulja Boy makes money from YouTube. And I was like, yes, Soulja Boy makes money from YouTube, but I make money.
I do as well.
And so, people, no one just knew. But it was definitely a cool thing that I did. I was always just like making stuff though. Like even outside of the YouTube videos, I was still like posting different videos and making edits and like throwing them on Facebook. So like, people knew that I was a video creative kind of person. But I don't know if they knew the extent of like, when I post a video, like tens of thousands of people watch it, and like I'm helping people with their like Apple products. I don't think people recognize that.
Where do you think that creativity and desire to produce content comes from? Is it any sort of inspiration particularly, or is it just kind of just something you've always been drawn to?
I mean, like the personality is the personality. So, I think being a Taekwondo instructor, you got to be a little fearless of like, get up in front of people and make jokes and talk and try to teach people things. And so, we were teaching on the YouTube, right? Like the YouTube was about like, here's how you do this thing on your MacBook, or here's how you empty the trash, right? People didn't know how to use Apple back then. So we were teaching, so it was very natural. And then, it was just like, this is like, like the dopamine of like seeing the views and seeing people say thank you and like the subscriber count go up. It was like, it was cool. It was my friend, and like we were just having fun, man. We weren't thinking too hard about it. Like I think now it's really hilarious when I hear people say they want to start a YouTube channel or they want to do something like this, and I just think back like, we didn't go in with those intent. We were just
Intentions,
like,
you just
this is fun. Let's keep
you went
doing
with the
it.
flow, and then it kind of worked out.
Exactly.
Pun intended. I make that
Exactly. Shameless, put it in
exactly.
So it wasn't as planned, where now, like, someone right now is starting a YouTube channel, and it's a key component to their like career and their livelihood and how they're gonna like feed themselves. That just wasn't necessarily how we were thinking about it in 2009.
And so Black man reviewing tech products reminds you of, you mentioned Marques Brownlee.
Oh yeah.
Did you mention that there was some sort of connection there?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like, it was early YouTube, right? So the tech reviewer scene was just getting popping. There's a guy named Mark Watson, Soldier Knows Best, MKBHD, or Marques Brownlee. Like, I remember when he first started his channel, and like, there's definitely been email exchanges. We definitely collabed on videos together. And so I think prime example of like, started very rudimentary, started very basic, 0 subscribers, and is now the biggest YouTuber, right? He interviews Elon Musk and Joe Biden and, Tim Cook, right? And so, it's like the power of keep going and consistency. I just don't think we knew what we had. And then I think also just different. So there were a few things, right? We were reviewing Apple products, and Apple was dropping a new product like every
you were solely Apple products.
We were solely Apple products.
Okay.
And so I would have to like go to my mom and be like, I need the iPhone 6. She's like, no, you don't. Yeah, like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I need the iPad 2. And it's like, no, like, that's just, so that was pretty expensive to probably keep up with that. And then I think in addition, I was going to college, and, my friend, he was getting married at the time. So like, we just had different life experiences that I think for us, we couldn't keep up with the consistency.
Yeah.
And so people were like, yo, where are the videos? And we were like, I'm in college. I'm trying to go to the party, But it was a great foundation, and I think, it served its purpose in its time. Especially when I think about, all the cool things I'm doing now.
Yeah, and it's funny. Is the page still up? And the reason I ask is and this is funny. So when I look up your name,
okay,
which have you tried to look up your name before?
Like Google.
Yeah, if you Google Scooter Taylor, the first thing that comes up is the Scooter Braun Taylor
Swift
exactly.
drama. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And there is so much content around that I was literally doing a deep dive on Google, YouTube, trying to find the page. And
it wasn't like that before. Like, before that drama, it was
that's
like,
what I
was see some of the stuff I was working on.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah,
it's like, this kid is not, like, he's not even a real person.
Yeah, I was like, did that drama like fuck you over a little bit?
Yeah, it's just like, like, you got to just hit me direct.
Yeah,
if you want to ask me questions, for sure.
Okay, so you stopped doing it mostly because you mentioned you went on to college. Remind me where you went to school?
Went to Morehouse.
Morehouse, okay.
Yeah, man, went to Morehouse.
What was that experience like?
Best experience, man. 2 things. I got to credit my older sister. I really think older sisters are like the backbone of society. And so, she went Ivy League.
Where'd she go?
She went to Wellesley. Wellesley College up in Massachusetts. Okay. And so, she went Ivy League, and she was working on Wall Street, and she was working around some Spellhouse kids, some of her friends. And she called me up and was like, yo, the kids who went to Morehouse and Spelman, they're actually tight. They're good at the job. They're having way more fun on their college campus. Like, you need to think about going to Morehouse. You've been going to this like all boy, all white private school. There's an all boy, all black private school in Atlanta. And I'm like, bet. Okay, cool. Like, older sister suggested it, so she must be right. And so, my first time in Atlanta was on move-in day. I didn't even...
You didn't visit the campus? That's always a bold choice, not visiting your campus before
I didn't
move in.
Outside
of people who, when COVID happened, they couldn't do it, that's a bold move.
Yeah, man. I didn't visit Morehouse. Like, to give you the context of like how... To let you just give you the picture of like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. First time in Atlanta, we move in, and I'm in the West End of Atlanta. So if you don't know the West End, like, it's the West End, And I finished moving in, and I go to my RA. I'm like, yo, man, me and my family are hungry. Where's the nearest like Chick-fil-A? And they just start cracking up, and they're like, you got a Popeyes and a Church's to choose from. Like, and it was like, all right, cool. Like, this is where I'm at, with it. So I think now with gentrification, there's a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was about to say Chick-fil-A is everywhere in Atlanta.
Back in the old days, it wasn't.
Yeah, fair enough. And so, so in hindsight, you are happy with the HBCU decision, which is something that I'm always just curious about, because I went to Princeton, and loved my experience there. Have now met some people who went to HBC.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting just comparing and contrasting what those experiences were like.
And it was beautiful, man. I think, you see the how dynamic of a people we are, right? There's so much diversity within Blackness, right? So you got your international students, you got the different socioeconomic backgrounds. And then I think it was just really cool to finally be in a space where, we were the standard, right? Like the standard wasn't, the white dude that I thought like, oh, we're all trying to achieve and get to that level. They're doing it, right? I was meeting, some of my friends were doing stuff that was way more impressive than the guys at my high school, and I was like, wait, okay, like this is the new standard. And I know people now that are working on Wall Street that look like me and that are, daring to go start tech companies and do these things. And I'm meeting alumni that have raised, funding and sold companies. So for me, it was like, man, I can be comfortable knowing that I can achieve high heights without having to like do some weird measuring stick up to, someone on the outside that doesn't look like me. So
and it's funny because for me, I was born in Nigeria and lived there for 9 years.
Okay.
And so coming to America, obviously, so in Nigeria, obviously, most people are not most. And the reason I was gonna say everyone, but not. I was gonna say everyone, but I said most people because literally 2 weeks ago, I met. So Nigeria's in the. I don't know when I'm actually gonna drop this episode.
Yeah.
But on February 11th, Nigeria will be playing in the final of the African Cup of Nations.
Okay.
Last weekend, I was watching the game at Lagos Times Square with some of my friends, and these girls walk up to me. They come with some of my friends, and then we just get chatting. They'll ask where I'm from. I say, I was like, I was born in Nigeria, but I've lived in America since I was 9 years old.
Right.
I was like, where are you guys from? They're like, oh, we were also born in Nigeria, and we lived there for 15 years. But they were not Black. Oh. They looked South Asian. And so it was just a little
bit. I did not expect you to go there.
I was very confused. I was also you should have seen the look on my face. And one of them even dared to say she was more Nigerian than me. I was shook. It was, it was quite an interaction. So that's why
Global citizens.
Exactly. That's why I digressed. But coming from Nigeria where most people are Black, that is exactly, like you said, the standard.
Yes,
and
for sure.
TV, everyone's Black. Billboards, everyone's Black. So going from that to America where Black people are now the minority, that was kind of the biggest shock in general from making that move. But I will say that mindset, kind of like what you're saying you got from Morehouse, where I'm seeing people who can achieve everything who look like me, that has always stuck with me to the point where doesn't matter what room I'm in or what situation I'm in, I know that just because of where I'm from and because you see all the great things people can do who look like you, it is never any sort of doubt about how my capabilities will stack up with anyone. Which is why even at a place like Princeton, I was like, I'm able to thrive because yes, people come from all these different backgrounds, whether wealthy, internet, like whatever, but like at the end of the day, I know who I am and I know I'm gonna thrive.
And I think that's super important for anyone.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone, any race, any gender to like believe that.
Yeah.
And I think you definitely get that instilled in you at Morehouse. And they do it in like different ways. Like there's different, sayings and things that like in quotes that we kind of can like spit off like
for example,
like one of them is like there's an air of expectancy at Morehouse, right? There's an air of expectancy that no man living, no man dead, no man yet to be born, right, will do the task or do the job as well as you'll do, right? Like and so I'm probably paraphrasing, but I think that in itself, right? And then you look at like, the Dr. Kings who went there, the Spike Lees, the Samuel Jacksons, shout out Metro Boomin, he went there.
He went to Morehouse? I did not know he went to Morehouse.
Funny enough, man, I was talking to someone recently at a dinner and he's about my age, a little bit younger. And I was like, I went to Morehouse. And the first thing he said was like, oh, Metro Boomin went there. And I was just like, that's a generational thing because, anyone who's a boomer, Generation X, they're like, that's where Dr. King went, that's where Spike Lee went. And now I think it's
Metro Boomers.
Shout out Metro. Shout out Metro. But there's a lot of excellence coming out of Morehouse, coming out of Spelman, coming out of Clark. Like there's just a lot of excellence, a lot of Black excellence, a lot of just excellence in general coming out of there. And, you have to make a decision. Either you're going to like be insecure about that or just kind of like not live up to that, or you're going to just, actually try your best, right? And put your stamp on it. And so.
And then after Morehouse, the next stop was where for you?
the immediate next stop was San Francisco on a pullout couch.
Okay. Is that where you were working on Yik Yak?
No, so I was doing Yik Yak right at the end of school.
Okay.
Yeah, so Yik Yak was a social media app that was in Atlanta, right? And I think this is where, serendipity, right? Like
That's the word of the podcast.
Yeah, no, look, man, a lot of those tech companies of that era, this is like 2014. So a lot of tech companies who were raising funding from VCs in San Francisco, they were located in San Francisco. Like you had to go to San Francisco to go work at some of those top name companies. And then here comes this random app that has grown on every college campus, number one in the App Store, backed by some of the biggest investors in San Francisco. And they're right in Buckhead in Atlanta. And,
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so, I would say back in the day, right, pre-pandemic for sure, when you took, VC dollars, the investors were typically like, yo, you got to come out to San Francisco. Like you're going to move. Because why are you in Atlanta or Memphis or Nashville or Austin, Texas or Miami, right? Now it's like, oh, you can stay there and like we'll make it work. But back then it was like, yo, you got to go out to San Francisco. Yeah. So I looked up and not found, but I was just moving around the tech scene, and I ran into the founder of Yik Yak. And before Yik Yak, I had tried to throw the world's largest water balloon fight. I talk about this often, but tried to throw the world's largest water balloon fight, and I failed like 2 or 3 times at it. And I looked at him, I said, man, you've got funding, you got every college campus using your app, you should be able to do this. And he was like, cool. He gave me his email. I didn't email him. I actually lost the email. And then I needed an internship, and I had a buddy who was also applying, but he didn't get the job. And I was like, yo, I met those guys. Like, I need to email them. Like, what's the email? Like, I'm gonna email them and try my hand at it. And it worked. And so I became like the first intern for sure. But it was like me and like 8 other people in the office when I first joined.
What was it like? Because I'm so curious. Because I work at a massive company. One day down the line, I do want to try to.
You would crush it. You would crush it for sure.
Appreciate it. Operate in the startup world where you're kind of building something from the ground up and it's a small team. Yeah. What was that experience like for you? And how do you compare it with? Have you worked at a bigger company at all or no?
No, I've never worked at a bigger company. I've never had like a corporate job. Okay. I did a corporate internship once. Okay. And that was pretty fun. But outside of that, I've never had a corporate job. So my first day at Yik Yak. I went from like planning a marketing campaign for the University of Arizona to like stocking the fridge with like more water because their water was all gone. So you're just doing everything, right? And it was awesome. But, I did use one lesson from that corporate experience at Yik Yak, and I think it really helped, right? I think what people fail to realize is like startups are small, but the goal is to like grow them into large companies. Yeah. And so the things that you learn at a big company are still sometimes pretty helpful at a small company, right? Not everything, but some things. So for example, at Yik Yak, when I started, I was the first intern. They didn't have an intern program. So when I get there, they're like, what do you want to do?
That's
literally, they're just like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
get paid.
So learning from that corporate internship the year before, I was like, well, I want to meet all the people on the team, right? Because that was the first assignment at the corporate internship. They were like, meet your team for the first 2 weeks. Yeah. So I was like, I want to meet everyone on the team. Well, luckily it's me and like 8 other people. So I'm meeting the CTO, I'm meeting the CEO, I'm meeting the COO, I'm meeting the chief product officer. And these guys are busy and they're like, I got a meeting for 30 minutes with who? Scooter? Like, who are you? You're an intern? Like, I didn't even know we had an intern. Like, what do you work on? But I'm asking them like, what's your role? How can I help you? How do you interact with marketing? What's your day-to-day like? And I started to see the pieces of the puzzle, right? Cool. All right, so this is how the CEO and the COO operate. Got it. Chief product officer reports to this guy. Okay, the CTO and the CEO are aligned. Oh, that's how the product guy works with this. Okay, and then I'm marketing. Oh, okay. So like, it was a really good experience to just see how it operates. Yeah. And then I just called my mom and I was like, I can do this. I can do the startup thing. And she's like, what? No, you're just an intern. Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, I can do this.
And was the rest of your internship still you deciding what you wanted to do? Or at a certain point, did they kind of organize some sort of internship program?
I was an intern for like a year and a half or so. And so Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like during
Oh,
school.
so in my mind, I was thinking this is like a summer. Okay.
No, it was
okay.
like during school. And
Okay.
so I think I went through like a school and then a summer. And then I think the next summer, they actually had a full intern program.
Wow.
They got like laptops and like it was a whole thing.
And you're like, where was this when I was
They
there?
had like, yeah, dude, it was like a whole orientation program. So I was with them, like I said, it was like 8 or 9 people when I was like there. By the time I left, they had like 80 people on the team.
Wow.
So they scaled up pretty quickly.
Success. And do you still keep in touch? Because Yik Yak does it still operate?
I don't know. I think it operates under like some new people.
Okay.
But I think what you're about to ask is like, do I keep up with people?
Yeah.
And I do, man.
Okay.
Some of my best buddies are from Yik Yak, right? Like, I think it's just like again, that's where the Memphis comes in, right? Where, Memphis is not, let me say this. Everywhere is everywhere can be transactional.
Yeah,
but
everywhere it can be. Yeah,
but you get that a lot, obviously, in LA. You get
Mhm.
that, obviously, in New York.
Mhm.
People are like, yo, I need this. Let's go. Let's
Mhm.
make it happen, right? The South, Memphis, like, people take their time, man. They want to meet you. You know what I'm saying? And like, how's your family doing? And
Yeah.
how's your day? And that was big for me, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not just working around people, but I'm asking about other things outside of work.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a distraction, but at the end of the day, I've built those relationships where, the guy who hired me for Yik Yak, and a brilliant marketer, I literally just caught up with him yesterday.
Nice.
And we had a great conversation and we're talking about all the cool things he's doing. He has a kid now, his wife, and like, we were talking about just the journey that we've been on. And like, I think that's super special. And I'm glad that, he took a chance on me. I'm glad that I performed, but I'm also glad that like, we were able to really just have a real bond versus like, yeah, I work for you and you're my boss. And like, at the end of the day, dog, like,
Peace out.
I'm just trying to get paid. Like, that I'm glad I did that.
Which it is so hard. That is one thing that I actually think I've struggled with, is being able to maintain those sorts of connections. Because I'm someone who, whether it's through work, through this podcast thing, or even whether it was high school, college, all the different interactions that I'm forming with people, I've never been the best at like keeping up with people. And that's something that I try to be better about consciously, to the point where now my one thing is, if someone crosses my mind, I just text them.
Yeah.
Yo, how are you?
Yeah, man.
Easy little simple thing like that. Because again, I never, as much as I ask people for things a lot, not even necessarily. So even like me and you,
Yeah, no.
we met on Zoom a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Now you're on the podcast 2 weeks later. I'm definitely going to keep up the interaction. So just little things like that, where as much as we are doing this thing together, I don't want it to just be that one initial interaction. I want to make sure we're still
For sure.
building the connection going forward. So it's a good thing that you've been able to mindfully keep that up.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the internet helps with that, right?
Yeah.
Posting a status, posting on Instagram a lot, like, but I think there's merit to also being upfront and asking for what you want, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, you may not do that because you're scared of ruining the relationship or whatever, but I think there's merit to that. And then a hack that I learned, I don't do this often, but I wish I could credit the person who first told me this, but what they do is, once a month, they'll go to the end of their iPhone, like messages, like the very end, and be like, who's the last person I texted? And typically it's someone that you're like, damn, I haven't talked to this person in a long time.
Wow.
Let me actually like check in.
Yeah.
That's a fun little hack to start.
Now I want to see. Let's see if I'll even say who it is. I'm
You're about to be
scrolling,
like,
which is crazy how far back you go. Oh damn.
you're probably like in two.
I'm in 2022. Wow. This is a great example. So the last one for me is a group chat called 10 Spring Street, which is the apartment that I lived in my junior spring on campus. And it's my boy Edmo and Michael Young. Funny enough, it was Ed's birthday. His birthday is either end of December or early Jan. So I texted him then. And Michael, we keep up through Instagram. That is a good way where if, like, that's again 2 great guys that I definitely want to keep up with. And
Just like, yo, who y'all got for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's a free one.
I like that. I like that. Okay, and so Yik Yak was during college, and then so you said you were living on a couch in San Francisco. What were you doing there?
Yeah, so Yik Yak happens, and then I get a chance to go start a company in San Francisco. And, I think the initial vision was, I'm going to work at Yik Yak. Like, they're going to hire me because I've known these guys since they had 8 people on the team. So like, of course you're going to hire me, right? I'm going to get this job and then I'm going to go start my startup, right? Like, I'm going to work here to learn and then I'm going to go start. And, so I'm sitting there and I'm watching them and like, I just realized like, yo, like they're smart, but they're not like any different from me, right? Like I could also do this. At the time, the founders of Yik Yak were 25 and it was their first job out of school. And I'm like, the things you guys are saying, like I could also like, I'm learning rapidly here. And I got my own spin on it and I've been doing the YouTube thing and like, I think I could do this. And I got a chance to go through Y Combinator. So the first company that we started was called Look Live, and it went through Y Combinator out in San Francisco, which is, one of the top accelerator programs. They're the first investors in companies like Airbnb and Dropbox and Reddit and Instacart and DoorDash. I think Dropbox. But like a lot of great companies went through Y Combinator. And in my mind, I knew that was a goal. I was like, okay, when I'm 27, 28, I'll go through that. But first, let me go learn at a startup. And I had a mentor call me and he was like, yo, we're going to go start this company. But you got to come move out to San Francisco like in 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm trying to get the Yik Yak job. Can I come later? Like, you guys go out there, get it started, and I'm going to come.
Yeah, I'll meet y'all out there.
Yeah, because I'm going to collect some paychecks, and I'm going to come. And he was like, no, you need to tell me, like, right now, are you going? And I was like, well, if you can get it in writing, like, I'm good. And so he literally took him, like, 2 weeks to get it in writing. I collected a paycheck. But I knew that the Y Combinator stamp was, a better use of my time than working at Yik Yak. And then, unfortunately for a lot of the team members, but fortunately, I guess from my timing, they shut down maybe like 6 months after I left. So,
and your time as an entrepreneur, and even just your experience more broadly as an entrepreneur is something that I want to get into.
Yeah,
because when we met over Zoom, you said the line that in that time you made every mistake in the book and you were able to learn from them. What were some of those mistakes that you made, and what was that experience like as a young entrepreneur who was trying to build something from the ground up?
Man, so many mistakes. We could list them off. I think they all boil down to like being scary.
Being scary.
Just being fucking scary. Like you're just scared, right?
Wait.
Like,
Like you're scared?
Yes, like you're scared, right?
Okay.
And like fear.
Okay.
Fear
okay,
and
okay.
being scared,
Okay.
right? Like quit acting scary, which is hard to say, right? Because it is scary. It can be, especially when you're young. But to be honest, like the things you're afraid of really aren't gonna actually like come get you, and everything is actually, you can work it out. You can go figure it out, but you have to be bold enough to like lean in, right? It's like monsters in the closet, right? You're like, okay, there are monsters in the closet. Well, we can either be scared to sleep in the room, or we have to like actually open the closet and flash a flashlight on them. And then we just realize like, oh, it's just it's a mop, and it's not actually a monster. And now the kid gets to go to sleep because they're like, okay, there's no monsters in the closet.
Yeah.
And I think when you're starting a company, you think there's just so many like evil monsters that are going to take you out. And it's like, if you just would like lean in and not be afraid to talk about those things with like a mentor or another entrepreneur, or just have that difficult conversation with your co-founder, you'll realize like it's actually not that scary and it's actually not that catastrophic. Let's keep moving.
Which, although I will say it can be, and I think because you've gone through it, you can say that.
This is definitely survivor. This is also survivorship bias, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's much easier said than done, because I can only imagine how many people there are out there who have an idea they want to start, who they have a company, they have XYZ that they're trying to get into, but the fear of burning the boats, of leaving everything, leaving the safety net of whatever well-paying job you're in to kind of take that chance. Well, I mean, I struggle with that too in much different ways. Yeah. So it is hard to kind of take that chance and take that leap.
And again, you're right. You're so right. Thanks for checking me on that. I think, I'm talking from my perspective, right? Like I'm coming out of school. I never had a corporate job, so I don't know what it's like to have your bank account hit every 2 weeks and like you have thousands in there. So I was broke. So they were paying me $600, every 2 weeks. And I'm like, this is great. This is a lot of Chipotle that I can eat, and like, I've never had a nice condo apartment with myself and laid it out and, having pre-games at it. Like I was used to kind of bare bones, which, is one, is some anecdotal advice that, sometimes the best time to start a company is kind of right after school, right? Because you're used to living low and you don't really know what you're missing, versus on the other side, you kind of have like lifestyle creep. So if you typically take vacations, if you know you like nice clothes, if you bought a nice car, right? Now you're kind of stuck in those, just lifestyle creep. You have a car note, you have furniture that costs $1,000, that couch costs $2,000. Like, you're not trying to give that up, just to go start your startup. So, I feel fortunate enough that I did do it early at 22, 23. I do have friends who reach out to me now and they're like, yo, I want to go start something. And sometimes the biggest hurdle isn't the idea. It isn't their talent. It isn't none of that. It's, are you okay? Like, not having the same amount of money that you've been having, but like in this time frame, right? Like, in a perfect world, in 12 years, you hopefully will have made a lot of money, right? Because you actually did this. But I think also too, right? Like, a big thing I'm also learning is we have to like widen our view of what success is, and like money is one piece of it, but also the joy it's going to bring you, right? The impact you're going to make, the lifestyle you kind of want, the freedom you want, right? All those things also make up the piece of the puzzle. It can't just be, oh, I'm doing this to get rich.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, I started when I was fairly young, and if anyone's starting when they're young, I think they should just remember to like lean in. Don't be afraid of the potential catastrophic monsters.
Yeah. And I'd never heard that term lifestyle creep, but I think that's 100%.
Oh yeah, lifestyle creep is real.
That's just holding me, but I think that's definitely my biggest.
Lifestyle creep is real.
The biggest hesitation, because again, I like that every 2 weeks there's money in the bank account. I like that I got my bonus in January. So that is the thing where, and I love what you said about having different definitions for success, because for most of us it is money. It's what's that person worth? What blah blah blah, and it. Again, all these things are so much easier said than done, where I'm like, I like that I'm going on vacation next week and at the end of March, and this is how you get caught, and then you look up in 25 years and you've been at the same corporation for it's hard. Yeah. It's tough.
It's there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
But I will say it has to be deeper than money, because I mean, like, you work so hard and these things don't work out. Like, my first startup didn't work out, right? That whole Look Life thing, we worked on that for 4 years and didn't work out for a various amount of reasons, right? Mistakes I made, mistakes the team made, the market, we got sued in there. All these things didn't work out. And then you're just like, dang, well, am I happy with what I did, or am I upset? Am I upset it didn't work out because I'm not rich and I'm actually broker than I was when I started? Or am I proud of myself for taking that risk, doing that thing, those fun memories I had? And now I have all these learnings to go do the next thing. Yeah. And the next thing could be even better than what I just did. So.
Yeah. And so now one of your later ventures, you're working on West Peak. Tell the people what that is.
Yeah, man. West Peak. West Peak is first off, West Peak is a street that I lived on in college with some buddies. And so, as with every college group, there's a crew of guys. And so we lived on West Peak Road in college. And when we started doing some of our more recent companies, we decided to call the company West Peak. So it was very fun. Shout out back to kind of that house and like just what that was, that time and era. But we've got a few things under West Peak. One of the first things we've got is West Peak Productions. So essentially during the pandemic, I did a virtual event with my friends. 5,000 people came. And we became virtual event experts overnight. And we've thrown like 500 virtual events. We have a lot of great clients that, I can kind of name, kind of can't name some of them, but we've done a lot of good work. We've made millions, which has been awesome. And it's a great, cool production hybrid agency that does, the technical work for a lot of conferences and events. So that's like the first thing. And then there's West Peak, the community, which was something that we're still kind of getting together. But essentially, when I did that first event for 5,000 people, I met 5,000 people who were very creative. They were entrepreneurs. They were professionals. And to me, there's, again, that serendipity that I keep talking about, that we keep talking about. I was like, how do we harness that? How do we bring people together and like at the right time? And, the things that I've learned about how to build a deck, how to do go-to-market strategy, how to talk to your co-founder, how to think about building a product, how to sell to a client, how to land $100,000 contract, like things that I've learned. People are asking me for advice on those things. And so can we create something that lets the community really kind of learn and thrive? And again, so that everyone can understand that it's possible, you know? So that's what we're working on right now.
Right now, you're inspiring me as we speak, man. If I quit my job on Mondays because of you.
Hey, look, call me up. Let's go. We will be on a whiteboard in 2 hours, and ideally, we'll hopefully have a product in the next week, and then you have your first customer the week after that.
There we go.
It'll. That's how it happens, man. That's literally how it happens.
I think, I just need the. I see it for myself down the line. Who knows, man? Hopefully, I keep pushing it off and off, but.
Dude, trust the timing too, right? Like, case in point, you have to trust the timing of your life, right? Like, when I knew that I needed to leave Look Live, I went to some folks and was like, should I leave or should I stay? Should I go?
Should I stay or should I go?
Yeah, exactly. Think of my life, what matters to me the most. And, it was like, what should I do? And some people were like, leave. You should leave today. And I was very afraid to do that. And then some people were like, yo, you should stay. Like, hang in there. And I was also kind of like frustrated on doing that. But I left at the right time, meaning I left and about 2.5 months later, maybe a month and a half later, was the pandemic, which allowed me to do the virtual event.
Yeah.
So I think back, like if I would have left earlier, I would have been way before the pandemic, and I don't know what I would have been doing. If I would have stayed, I would have stayed during the pandemic, and that probably would have been crazy. I don't know what that would have ended up in. But what I did do is what I did. I left when I left. We started a new company. A year later, we're making 7 figures. Life was good. And I went from, dramatic shift of $600 every 2 weeks and something that was frustrating, that wasn't kind of working, to something that was more enjoyable.
And a little more than 600.
And a little bit
a little more than that.
And so you got to trust the timing. So all that to say, like, don't beat yourself up if you feel like you should have started a company by now, or, whatever. Just understand when it happens, like, make the leap and it'll be the right time, and put your all into it.
How big is the team?
Man, we've had a team of 16, 17 at one point. And then unfortunately we did have to downsize. And so it's just a small operation, like 4 or 5 people now.
Wow.
At this point, it's nothing too big. So we've had our ebbs and flows too, right? So it hasn't been all peaches and cream.
Yeah, which is, in general, that's kind of what all these experiences will be like. And I'm sure this is what you'll highlight to people, is that it's what things are good sometimes, but things are also bad. And it's kind of the ups and downs of lives of a company, of a podcast, of all the different things that we're trying to make. Damn. Yeah,
it's all a season, man. And, it's a season, but how do you navigate those times, right? And I think that's where you have to go back into like why you're doing it, right? If you're doing it for one purpose only, and you go through a bad moment, you'll think all is lost.
Yeah.
Right? If you're having a really good time and you're doing it for one purpose only, you'll lose sight of all the other benefits. Yeah. And so you really have to kind of think about, why you're doing things.
Yeah. And with that, we will bring it to our 2 final segments for the show.
Me. What's up?
First segment is I have my guests come with 5 songs to describe who they are as a person. I leave it open to interpretation. Say the song and say the reason you chose it.
All right, 5 songs that represent me as a person. So number 1, Preach by Young Dolph. I'm from Memphis, and you got to throw some Dolph in there.
Yep.
And like, that's just a great song that I think is has some good messages in there.
Yeah.
Overall. Latch by Sam Smith and Disclosure.
Good song. Okay.
I think that's one of the best songs ever made.
Best songs ever. Wow.
I think, it represents, when you listen to that song, you feel like you're at a day party. Mm-hmm. And we threw a lot of day parties in college. And that was an instrumental song.
Is Darty or Dage?
Darties. Yeah, we do some darties. And so from there, I go to Be Your Girl, Kate Renata. I thought about this. I put some time and effort.
I like that. As you should. It's an important segment to the show.
I think if you took someone who had never heard music before and you played them Be Your Girl, Kate Renata, like, that would that's real music. Like, that's just amazing.
I like that description. Someone who's never heard music and how you'd want to open them.
This guy
is smart guy right here.
You open them there. Last two were interesting. I threw Michael Jackson, Billie Jean in there, and that's partly because if you know anyone in my family that knows me, they still ask me to this day, even though I'm a 30-year-old man, to do the moonwalk because I used to do it as a kid and they loved it. So there's that. And then the last one is interesting. It's two artists that are just my favorite, but they also, one's my favorite, and then one represents Atlanta. But it's a Big Amount by 2 Chainz.
I got a Big Amount.
And with Drake.
Yep.
A great song. Again, a great feature from both of them. But I remember listening to that song like on repeat when I'm sleeping on that pull-out couch, building that first startup. It was just like a confidence boost. Like, we're about to do this shit. And so, yeah, I probably listened to that more times than I've listened to any song. But yeah, so those are the 5, man.
Love that list.
That was a tough list. But
have you seen MJ the Musical on Broadway?
I have not.
You should. I saw that literally saw it last Sunday. It was my first Broadway show ever. Spectacular.
Interesting.
Would highly recommend. I think it's only here for another month and a half-ish.
Interesting.
Before it goes to London.
I just read that obviously Michael Jackson, the estate sold half his catalog for like $1.2 billion yesterday. But it was interesting. They're keeping the rights to theatrical plays and all the different things. So I guess they see some future in
that's one of those things where
space.
How do you even put a value on MJ? Because I saw some tweets like they lowballed him.
Oh, robbed.
Yeah, that's
robbed.
Yeah, because the family sees 1.2, so they're like, oh, we got something good. But I'm like, you could.
I got 1.2 or 50%, but it's just I just don't. I think that music is gonna appreciate forever and ever.
Exactly. So highly recommend the show or the Broadway show.
And
then the final segment on the show, which I've done for the last 3-4 episodes.
Okay.
I have my guests kind of manifest their ideal life 10 years in the future down to the most specific detail. It was inspired by this amazing article that I read that I'll send to you, where basically just asked a bunch of 20-year-olds kind of what they want to be doing 10 years from now, down to like this number of vacations a year, this many kids, my kids are in this school. And it was just, I've never read an article that I just like loved so much. I don't know why I loved it so much, but I just loved it. And so it's now inspired this segment where it's a great way to just manifest kind of what you're trying to get at in the future. So life 10 years in the future to the most specific detail possible.
That's amazing because I think about this all the fucking time. So thank you for this question. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I'm actually very prepared for this. 10 years from now, I'm 40. I'm probably standing on the Malibu beach, toes in the sand. I've probably got that AirPod 7s or whatever the fuck in my ear. I'm holding my kid. It's the morning time. We're watching the sunrise. I'm probably on the phone with a founder, helping them with their company or what they're working on. We, are just walking down the beach, enjoying the morning. Go back inside with my wife, partner, that'd be cool, I guess, in the next 10 years. Go back inside and me and the kid make breakfast, while she's in bed, and breakfast in bed. And then mom and dad and sister are probably going to come over for lunch and we'll hang out and have a good time. So, I think that sums up a lot of things, right? Just the type of people I want in my life, or who I want to still be there. I'm living a life of, on my terms still, right? Like, I think that's still important for me, that I get to wake up every day and be like, what do I get to do today? And I'm like, I get to record a podcast with Flo. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't have to necessarily be anywhere, but here. And I think, that kind of describes that. And I think still doing what I love though, right? Still helping people take their ideas, put them into the world. I'm in Malibu, so obviously we can afford Malibu. So there's, we don't have to talk about the money part, but yeah, man, that's the next 10 years. So I need to leave here and get to work so I can make that happen. But no, that's the next 10 years, man. But it's, but what they say, God laughs at your plans. So
exactly. Well, that was beautiful answer. And again, I love these questions because each person that I've asked has taken it in such a different direction, but each answer is just, it kind of lets you see the things someone cares about, and the things that they're going to prioritize in their future, and things we're all trying to achieve. So love that answer, manifesting every single aspect of that for you. This has been a great episode. Thank you for coming on.
Exhilarating. It happened fast, man. Quick.
Remy, how long did we go for? 57,
Yeah,
almost
no.
in an hour. I was like, I got that hour in my head. I always keep it to the hour. Scooter, do you have any final words for the people?
Man, just, believe you can do it. Just honestly believe you can do it, whatever that is, right? It doesn't have to be just entrepreneurship, but just believe it can happen. Believe you can do it. Whether it's you want to build a better relationship with a friend, a family member, you want to go accomplish a dream, build a company, you want to go apply for that corporate job, you want to go make a cake tonight, first time making a cake. Yo, believe you can do it, like believe you can do it, man.
I love that. That is a beautiful place to wrap this episode. This has been a very fun episode. Great meeting you in person. Great learning about your story. Inspired me. Definitely inspired everybody who's listening. And yeah, this has been another episode of Go With The Flow.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening.
Run it up.